Hello there, Tommy. Can you hear us? Okay, that's great. I'm trying to call the last person which should be in the conversation, which is Nightkill. If he does not answer, we will begin. Okay, before I would like to know on which side you're practically at. I suppose the best red is going to be against Stalinism, and I suppose that Ivan Martinovich is going to be on the Stalinist side. Am I right?
I'm trying to be...
You can
Yeah, well, I think I will end up on the Stalinist side, yes.
Okay, so you choose that part. Okay, we have to wait like 1 minute for Nightkill, which would like to join us, but he has some issues. Tommy Smith will be the spectator of this debate, as he has signed up for.
Right.
No problem. It's our pleasure to have spectators. So take your time in thinking about possible subjects, possible arguments, and so on before we begin. By the way, the best red.
Yes.
Is your friend coming or?
He doesn't. He's not replying, so I'm guessing.
Oh, okay. Nightkill, can you hear us? Nightkill. Okay, I suppose Nightkill will be a spectator, am I correct? As he cannot speak. No, you cannot write because we have a debate. We don't have a... It is a problem. Because we try to have a serious debate, if I could say it like that. Okay, is everybody ready? Can we begin?
Yes.
Always ready.
Excuse me?
Always ready.
Glad to hear. So as you know, we have gathered here today to debate about Stalinism. Practically, I've preset some points which we will try to follow and debate chronologically through this session. The first one being, is Stalinism good? Practically by Stalinism, we refer to Stalin's economical, social, political policies and his leadership of the Soviet Union. The second one will be opinions about Stalinism from a dogmatical, theoretical perspective. And the third one will be Stalin and his rivals. That is, for example, Trotsky. We can at the end add other points, but we will focus for those in the very beginning. So practically the teams are like this. I am with Ivan Martinovich, and against us is the best red. So as we are pro-Stalinism, we will have to we'll have to say our opinion about it, which will be a positive one, and then the best red will have to bring a counter argument, and we'll go on like this. Everybody has 30 seconds, a maximum, for his part, and then we move to the next person. It will be like circular. So I suppose I am the one to begin. Frankly speaking, Stalinism is good. We could analyze it from a theoretical perspective, but I believe that its achievements speak out way better than if you would have to analyze it, I don't know, through Marxist perspectives or something like that. We know very well that Stalin was the one who brought the first proletarian state, which is the Soviet Union, at the height of a great power, and also managed to bring communism through half of the European continent, and of course had other great achievements such as implementing the collectivization, which was a socialist mode socialist economical system. I would like to ask now Ivan to say his opinion.
Okay, I agree with you on that, but in my opinion, it's more important to point out the critics against Stalinism and why they are wrong. Because in a normal argument, most Trotskyists, for example, say that his main fault was the Great Purge. And there were mistakes. They had people like Yeshov who started to purge without any ideological background, but people like him were replaced as soon as their actions got uncovered, and it did work. So,
okay, the best Red, you may now have your turn.
Well, as he said, most Trotskyists say that they sprang up the Great Purges. I'm saying if you're saying he brought socialism more powerful, but to what end? He killed millions, declaring them as traitors. I don't see how that can work. And what he did, along with Azerbaijan, I think that's how you pronounce it, the way he treat like the Black January, for example. He's socialism in one country. He's stayed it in his area, but the way he brought it about just wasn't right, in my opinion. And the Great Purges is the example of that. He killed millions, as I've said before, because they went against his views. They spoke against him, so he kills them, which just isn't right. If he's wanting to create a fairer society, like communism preaches, you can't kill them because they speak out against him. If he wants them to stop speaking out against him, he has to maybe try and do things in their view, not change the place completely, but change it so for the better of everybody, not just kill them off so people are scared to speak out against him, like how he did it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you like to continue, or
I'm done.
Okay, very well. I'd like to point out the fact that we have to agree that there was a need to make efforts in order to lay the foundation of the first socialist state. And indeed, great efforts were made. For example, we have the collectivizations, which had as well its flaws, because it had casualties within the peasantry and so on. But I would like to emphasize that efforts were needed to make, great efforts, in order to lay the foundations of socialism in a country devastated by an imperialist war, and a country devastated from an economical point of view, which was weak from a military point of view, and which had many flaws in the social system, in the institutional system, and so on. I would like also to point out here, regarding the Great Purge, that I'm not trying to say how good I am, but I actually documented myself a lot on this topic, and I can say that most of the people that were purged were actually incompetents, or were actually traitors, and so on and so on. Another problem here is that Stalin did not kill millions of billions, as how some people say. Indeed, there were casualties, like 100,000, 200,000, but if we report the entire population of the country, it wasn't such a big mess. And a lot of people put emphasis on this huge number, and they try to hyperbolize it so that it's extremely enormous, which is rather silly, in my opinion. Because imagine if you would start to kill, 50 million people, as some people say that Stalin did. Yes, that was, although on a very long period, as you can see there. Nightkill. Coming back to what I was saying, we have to analyze this 50 million that some people claim died during Stalin's rule. It's relatively impossible, because the economy would be effective. Imagine so many people dying, and so on and so on. So it's rather an utopic argument which isn't really based on any solid data. Also, with this I'm ending. In the gulags, not only there were political repress, but also there were criminals in gulags. So I would like to pass this to Ivan now.
Okay, at first, are you all familiar with the Lenin quote that mass executions are a legitimate tool of revolution?
Yes.
Yes.
This refers to the need to purge the elements of the bourgeoisie and the kulaks, Mensheviks, social revolutionaries, the oppositional groups in Russia during that time for the revolution to be successful. And regarding the gulags, I think the gulag system is the most effective way to deal with any criminals, political criminals, and the most humane. In fact, I had family members in gulag. They were prisoners, war prisoners, German soldiers. And it wasn't bad there. It was cold and they had nothing to eat, but the Soviet soldiers didn't have either. So it was because of the bombardment of supply lines and stuff like that.
Okay. I would like to pass this to the best red.
Right. You mentioned the purges against in that he killed off traitors, but as I've said before in the comments of the page, I don't believe Trotsky's son had done anything to be classed as a traitor. He wasn't a proper follower of Trotsky. He barely knew him because he'd been exiled by the time before he'd reached his teens, I think. And if you're killing off in the gulags, I assume you're against concentration camps, right? If they're putting them into the camps because they were traitors, giving them fat to eat. I assume you've read the A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Yes. Well, if you've seen the life in the gulags through that book, and they're saying all they were given to eat was fat. It was freezing cold. The only things they had to wear was rags. I don't think that's the kind of thing you're going to do to a traitor that might not have actually been a traitor. You've just put him in a gulag and ruined his life for no reason, because you assume or just think he's done something against what you believe. If that's how you're going to run the state, how are you going to allow the others of the place to want to follow you if you're just scaring them away with this gulags, to put people that don't want there in, to just they were traitors as you think they are. And I'm staying on this point because that's the main point I'm against with Stalinism, because if you can't people kill them because you think that they have nothing, that you have been a traitor towards what your ideology is. I'll finish there.
Okay, well, I would like to point out that you emphasize too much on this gulag part. You know, when you say Stalin, you most probably, as a synonym, think of gulags. And when, I know, a random guy from the West says Stalin, most probably he thinks of the... Stalin was also responsible for great achievements, as I have said before, and we should actually emphasize those. Because Stalin did great things, and once again I'm reiterating, he laid the foundations of the first socialist state, brought it to a height of immense power, spread communism, and so on. And here I would like to personally ask the best red, what did Trotsky do compared to Stalin's achievements?
He was a prominent founder of the Red Army. He helped with the revolution in a very big way. He was one of the reasons it succeeded. He was a great speaker. He had many followers, and Stalin, the Third International, had been lost to him, and he and all his followers started the Fourth International, which is big, isn't it? So, and Trotsky being the leader of, you're saying Stalin had great achievements, but he used them achievements from Trotsky and Lenin's creations, not just his state.
Indeed, you have a correct point that Trotsky participated in the Russian Revolution and brought a huge advancement towards socialism by his participation. He founded the Red Army, he led it through several victories. But if we'd have to balance the achievements of Stalin, in my opinion, of course, they are way bigger than the one of Trotsky. Let us not forget that after Trotsky was exiled from the Soviet Union, he continuously tried to, if I could use this term, to destabilize the situation within the Union towards his favor. Like, he started criticizing Stalin, which represented in essence the Soviet state, the Soviet power, thus giving the capitalists arguments and practically indirectly helping the capitalists. Ivan, would you like to say something?
Yes, I don't think that it is good to compare Stalin and Trotsky in such a way, because we don't know if Trotsky would have made the same achievements if he would have won against Stalin. I think the Gulag part is pretty important because we have to defend this. Gulags were not concentration camps. They were not camps made to torture or kill people. They were re-education camps.
That's correct.
There are popular examples of people who went to concentration camps because they disagreed with Stalin, like Konstantin Rokossovsky,
Yes.
the later Marshal of Poland, and as well the last emperor of China, who was first in Soviet concentration, Soviet gulags, and then in Chinese gulags, and he became a communist.
The best read?
I'm going to try and steer away from gulags now, because I believe I've said enough on that.
Okay.
But you were saying on Stalinist achievements, and
Yes.
I agree with what you said before on we can't say if Trotsky couldn't have done the same, because he was obviously outmaneuvered by Stalin, and if Trotsky had become premier, I believe he would have had the same amount of achievements, if not more, as Stalin. Yes, he defeated the Nazis using the Red Army, which was in fact created by Trotsky. If Trotsky had been premier, I'm sure he could have done the same, but if not quicker, if using his own army. When he was exiled, he couldn't have done as much as he could have, as he was in a different country. Yes, the stuff he had said against Stalin was used by capitalists to put down the USSR and demine it, basically. He was trying to turn it in his favor. He was exiled for being against him and basically being his enemy, which is reasonable. And so the only thing he could do was create up statements against Stalin, write books as he has, and just activize against the person who's kicked him out of his country.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your point of view, but I would like to point out something here. With the risk of making a small deviation from this debate, I would like to ask you, do you think, since you're emphasizing on the fact that Stalin killed a lot of people, do you think that Trotsky would have managed to do great achievements without implementing such severe measures?
I think he would have had to have killed some, as the US is such massively overpopulated, and he would have to have created some kind of, I don't know, excuse to have some basically gone. But I don't think he would have killed as many as Stalin did.
Well, how it may, this is only a subject of discussion for now. But we have to agree that whether you would be Stalin or Trotsky, casualties within the civil population would have still been made in order to obtain socialism. Coming back to the main track of the conversation, of the debate, I'd like to say the fact that Stalin was a very pragmatical person and he knew how to lead a state. As far as I have studied, about Ski, he was a very impulsive person. He liked to save the face. And when you're actually leading such a big country, and at that time it was in a really dire situation, surrounded by capitalists, you had to have a political, if I could say, not experience, a political capacity. Trotsky would have most probably just rushed, of course this is just imagination, would have rushed and attacked the capitalist states, and I know really, I don't see Trotsky as capable as Stalin as the head of the USSR. Ivan?
I think you focus too much on Stalin as person because the movement was led by the Communist Party. And the Communist Party was not just Stalin or not just Trotsky. It was a bunch of persons, a lot of great leaders and party functionaries. And I think it's very important that most of them liked Stalin more than Trotsky. There were a lot of people supporting Stalin within the Central Committee and within the Communist Party, but far less supporting Trotsky. And I think this is important because if Trotsky had won against Stalin, maybe they wouldn't have enough cadres to lead the movement in the way Stalin did.
Yes, Stalin was indeed a person with political capacity. He knew how to obtain influence within the party, if I could say like that. The best Red?
I forgot what I was going to say now. Hold on.
No problem, take your time.
Yeah. Right. You're saying Trotsky couldn't have had the same amount of political influence as Stalin did. This is obviously imagination, but if he had become the leader of the Soviet Union, I believe he would have had as many followers as Stalin did. He would have been able to create a bigger union as permanent revolution. He would follow that instead of socialism in one country. He would have expanded quicker as what Stalin had did, and through that it created more followers. And if that is obviously imagination, I'm not saying that would happen. But I'm assuming.
Could I stop you for a second?
Yes.
Well, Stalin's policy of socialism in one country was a pragmatical one and was aimed to bolster the first proletarian state and to make it capable of defending itself from the capitalist onslaught. From your point of view, if Trotsky would have been the leader of the Soviet Union with his theory of permanent revolution, do you think it would have succeeded? Knowing that in 1919 there was already the Hungarian Revolution, which failed miserably, and knowing that the USSR was in a very bad state from an economical point of view, and that the capitalist states practically tried to isolate Russia and communism. So what do you think? It would have succeeded?
I don't think we would have succeeded all the way through it, but I would think we would have succeeded at least most of points of where we would want to expand, like the Hungarian Revolution, which failed. But if the Soviet Union at the time of 1919 was obviously in ruin. It was Stalin that industrialized it and brought it to be the power. But if Trotsky, I'm sure Trotsky would have done the same, as bring it up to power, but obviously without as many casualties. If Trotsky had brought that up to power while doing as he would have of expanding, he would have made the USSR bigger, stronger, and basically had been even more of a superpower and a threat to the capitalists on the West as what it had actually became.
Ivan?
I have nothing to say right now.
Well, I believe we could move on to the second part of this debate, which is opinions about Stalinism from a dogmatical, theoretical perspective. Practically, what I mean by that is that we will analyze Stalinism from a Marxist perspective. Like, was Stalinism a continuation of Marxism-Leninism or was something else? Because I know that Trotskyists especially claim that Stalin had nothing to do with communism. He was like a fascist or something like that. So I would like to ask here the best friend about his opinion.
If people are saying that Stalinism is the completed version of Marxism-Leninism, but Marx was the first person to promote the permanent revolution, which is what Stalin didn't use. So how could it be complete if he doesn't follow the methods of what the person he is supposed to be the complete of basically promoted?
Okay, well, I'm going to point out here, which I'm quoting from Stalin's book, that specific theories work only at their time. When Marx elaborated that permanent revolution, actually he didn't elaborate it directly, if I could say like that. He was referring strictly to that period and strictly to the 48 revolutions, and he thought that permanent revolution would engulf Europe and it would work, knowing that in 1848, there were revolutions throughout the whole European continent. But once again, that theory worked for its time, and it was specific for its time. Marx never said that permanent revolution will be the path to success for socialism in, I don't know, in the 20th century. Ivan, do you have anything to say?
I agree with that. It is the worst thing to do to apply theories developed in a different historical situation to another historical situation without overthinking them.
The best friend?
I've got nothing to say.
Well, I would like to ask you here now, do you believe that indeed Stalinism is communism? Because I've seen a lot of Trotskyists which claim that Stalin was not a communist, and I don't know, something like that. What's your opinion?
I think he was... Oh, you hear that? No, right, it's gone now. I believe Stalin was, in fact, communist, but he was more fascist as a communist. Like he was more authoritarian than your average communist, as in Marx, Stalinism, Trotskyism, etc.
Well, can I object for a second? The Bolsheviks, I have to say, were I know how to spell it. Were as well, okay, I just cannot spell it.
Authoritarian.
Yes, we're just as authoritarian as Stalin, because Lenin, I believe some of you might know this quote, that I don't remember it exactly though, but he said that in order for the revolution to succeed, we can do anything. By that means he meant that we could kill people and so on. And during the revolution there were excesses as well. I know, like casualties, civil casualties and so on. And Trotsky, I also believe, he wasn't such of a balanced person. He, as you have said, when I asked you about how would the Soviet Union look if you would have been under Trotsky's rule, you admitted as well that Trotsky would have made casualties within the civil population as well. So I wouldn't rather tend to say that the Bolsheviks were like balanced people and let's try to have minimum casualties, let's not try to kill people and so on. Or the best friend?
He got anything to say? I'll let him go.
Well, you just can't compare Stalin to a fascist. Fascism is an ideology that means that the most reactionary elements of the monopole capital make an open, terroristic dictatorship, as opposed to the bourgeois democracy, which is an not openly terroristic dictatorship. And you just can't compare Stalin to a fascist. That's wrong per definition.
Okay. I would like to ask you, why are you saying that Trotsky was a fascist?
Who said that?
You.
No, I said that Stalin was not a fascist.
No, you said that you cannot compare Stalin with a fascist.
Because the best
referring
friend
to me.
Yes, he said that he was more fascist than communist, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And he also used the term authoritarian, which is in fact a term created by anti-communists to be able to compare communism and fascism.
Yes, that is correct. I thought for some seconds you had referred to Trotsky when you said fascist.
No.
Okay. Any other remarks that you would like to make here?
When he says authoritarian as was a capitalist Western thing to compare communism and fascism, I was referring to the 4-point political spectrum, as in Trotsky would be kind of left and up like on the authoritarian side, but not as high up as Stalin would be in the authoritarian 4-point political spectrum. They're both left, but one is more higher up in the authoritarian scale as the other.
That might be true. Yes, Ivan?
This scale is not a scale that should be used by Marxists. We have our own methods of analysis, and we don't say left or right or authoritarian or libertarian. We have a very special definition of liberalism, and we know that there are progressive movements and there are regressive movements, and there's nothing else.
That is correct, because a Marxist watches everything through a dialectical materialist perspective. Okay, I believe that we don't really have what else to discuss about Stalinism from a theoretical perspective for now. Would you like to move on to discuss about Stalin and his rivals? That is, for example, Trotsky.
Okay.
Okay, we have discussed in this debate before about this, but I would like to emphasize on this point practically the confrontation between Stalin and Trotsky and their role in the Bolshevik Revolution. I believe that Ivan, you agree as well that Trotsky played a more important part in the revolution than Stalin.
Trotsky was a good commander, and he did achieve great victories, but Stalin did not only... He was also a good commander. He defended Tsaritsyn and other cities.
Yes.
And his personal friends who he helped into the Central Committee, like Bujoni, had also a very great impact on the revolution. For example, Bujoni, who founded the first Red Cavalry Army.
Yes, that's correct. And Voroshilov as well. Yes. I would like to bring into discussion the following thing here. Is everybody familiar with the fact that Trotsky was first of all a Menshevik?
Yes.
What do you have to say about that, the best read, that he was a Menshevik? And only he went on the Bolshevik side only at the beginning of the revolution.
Don't really know what to say about that, actually.
Yes. Yes, Ivan?
I actually have to defend Trotsky here, because this would only be important if that would mean that he was an opportunist. But if he was an opportunist, he wouldn't have fought Stalin. He would have done like Khrushchev did and just became Stalinist.
Yes, frankly speaking, I don't believe that Trotsky was opportunist as well. Because even though if you would pass from the Mensheviks to the Bolsheviks, you were still not sure that you could achieve the socialist revolution. So I'd rather tend not to assume that Trotsky was an opportunist as well. But I just wanted to bring into discussion the fact that Trotsky was a Menshevik, and also I've studied his biography, and I know that Trotsky had some conflicts with Lenin, and he opposed Lenin, I know, in the first years of their acquaintance. The best friend, do you have to say anything about it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, he was a Menshevik, and yes, he was an enemy of the Bolsheviks. But when he did move into the Bolshevik movement, he was a pivotal role in the revolution. He was one of the forgotten the word now. He was one of the biggest people to play a part in the revolution, and just because he was an enemy of the Bolsheviks beforehand doesn't mean he is still an enemy after he has been killed by Stalin and his agents.
Okay, I believe you can end this third point as well. I thought about another point which we might add. Somebody has suggestions about what we could discuss now, or I bring my suggestion?
May I suggest something?
Yes, sure. Move on.
The second biggest enemy of Stalinism after Trotsky was Khrushchev.
Mm-hmm. So
what do you think about him?
The revisionism. Well, frankly speaking, I've studied the end of Stalin. I know his death, and I've seen that Khrushchev actually played a part in assassinating Stalin. Of course, those are only theories, but I've seen some really solid theories by which Khrushchev put poison or tried to make the medics which tried to cure Stalin, not to cure him, something like that, a conspiracy. Regarding Khrushchev, I believe that he tried to continue the path of Marxism-Leninism, although he was a revisionist. I believe he did that only to increase his support and by trying to smoothen the Soviet society, which was pretty much, if I could say, too much indoctrinated by Stalinism after 30 years or so. But I know if my points of view contradict each other, I like Stalin, but I like, frankly speaking, Khrushchev as well, because he tried to continue the Marxist struggle. He tried to do, although he might not have succeeded, with the Cuban crisis. But overall, I don't see Khrushchev through a bad perspective. Ivan, would you like to say something?
Yes. If you read about Khrushchev's lives, you will soon find that he was, in fact,
he was a
really, really opportunist. Yes.
Yes.
And I don't think he was ever a communist, frankly speaking. It would be very difficult to explain all the facts right here. I would like to suggest to you a book that you can read about this theme. Wait a moment. I write it.
I've read about Khrushchev as well in some of Viktor Suvorov's books, if you know him. And I know that he was actually the leader of Ukraine. He participated at some mass killings. He was the leader of something like that. And he had strong relations with Stalin as well. He was opportunist indeed. Meanwhile, the best Red, would you like to say something?
No, I'm not very well. I'm not very well informed on Khrushchev and his.
Okay. Well, while Ivan searches that book, I would like to bring into discussion as well. What is your opinion? I know this might be a little bit unrelated to our topic, but what is your opinion on communism and gays and feminism? Because this is rather a pretty important topic.
Well, my view is...
I would like to make reference also that Stalin was against gays and against such movements, such as feminism. And he banned them in 1936. And thank you for suggesting that book. Would you like to say something, Ivan, or the best Fred?
I'd like to something. Stalin was never against feminism. Of course, we now have a very different definition of feminism.
Yep.
But it was always a communist point of view that the emancipation of women is one of the most important parts.
Yes, that's true. Feminism then had rather another definition that it has nowadays. It meant the emancipation of women, and they didn't really have that many rights. The Soviet Union was the first one, I believe, I believe correct, to give women equal rights with the men. Also, feminism nowadays is rather a capitalist, in my opinion, is rather a capitalist degeneracy movement. And the best Red, would you like to add something or say something?
I am for all of the movements. I think equal rights for everybody, not just a specific group. You can't ban, like how Stalin banned gays, and you can't. And Putin has done the same, hasn't he? You can't just ban someone because of something they can't themselves. And feminism, it's not to have someone look that is a different sex to you and just have them played lower, give lower pay, give them etc. is what you have in a capitalist society. And
okay, so we're practically against the fact that Stalin banned the gays in 1936, right?
Yes.
Well, I would like to bring into argument here the fact that the family was the column of the society, as it was called for the Soviet Union. The family played a really important role in the communist states, not only in the Soviet Union, and it was safeguarded by the state. And practically gays were banned in order to promote this column of the society, and in order to demotivate people from turning into something which could harm this social stability. Anybody would like to add something here or say?
Currently not.
Okay. So do you agree with me on this topic, or would you like to say something?
Can't say I agree, but I have nothing else to add.
Same here.
Okay, so you don't agree, but you don't have arguments, right? Okay. I would like to discuss the last point of this debate before we end it. Anybody suggest something for the end?
No.
Okay. Nightkill, would you like to suggest something for the end, or Tommy? Okay. Yes, Nightkill, please tell us. How do you think other communists would influence their interaction? What do you mean by that specifically, Nightkill? Okay, I think I found the last topic with which we will end this debate. That is the role of Stalin during the Great Patriotic War. Would you like to debate a little bit about this one?
I would actually rather debate on the theme Nightkill suggested.
Okay, but I don't actually understand what he means.
Well, there was the conflict that led to the downfall of the Eastern Bloc was the question of the Cold War, because yes. Khrushchev tried to avoid war by any means possible. China and Albania said even if the Americans use nuclear weapons, it's the people who decide the outcome of a war and not one or two new weapons. This is a Mao quote. And Tito had left the Cold War way before.
Well, frankly speaking, I don't believe that the Cold War, first of all, to begin, Cold War was not the fault of the communists. It was the capitalists who tried primarily to stop communism and to destroy it. That is my perspective.
Oh, of course.
So I don't believe as long as somebody wants to destroy you, as somebody wants to eliminate you, I don't believe you can actually have real relations with him. You might have relations like, I know, what Gorbachev's time, but what happened during Gorbachev's time was the fact that the Soviet Union let its grip fall from the Eastern Europe and practically let itself be destroyed. And that's the only way, that's the only moment when the capitalists actually started to like the Soviet Union, if I could say like that. Okay. Anybody has to say something?
No, I think this is because Khrushchev was a traitor and, in fact, an agent of imperialism on long terms.
Well, I have to say that is a topic for another debate, which we might have later.
Yes.
Another day. I have to thank you all for participating at this. Tommy Smith, thank you for a great spectator and motivating us with your presence. So can I say about Nightkill? Commissar Vania, Tavarish Ivan Martinovic, thank you for participating. Tavarish the Best Red, thank you once again. Thank you as well for participating. It was a great debate, and I hope we will have more of this. So yes,
Okay.
that was awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Have a good day as well.
Für Frieden und Sozialismus seid bereit, immer bereit.
Вперед к победе коммунизма.
Samir.
Oh, wait, Ivan, what does Samir mean?
To peace.
To peace. And Zumir?
My Russian isn't that good anymore.
No, it's not Russian. Ah, you said Zamir. I thought you said something in German. Zamir, yes, for peace means.
Yeah.
In German, Zumir, does it mean something?
No.
Oh, okay, because I played the game and I heard this thingy. Nevertheless. Yes, our debate session ends now. Thank you for participating once again. Have a nice day.
Wait.
Yes.
I think you mean zu mir.
Ah, yes, Zumir?
Zu mir.
Zumir.
That means to me. Come to me.
Uh-huh. Yes, I was playing a game called Napoleonic Wars and I was a commander and it said Zumir.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you once again. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later.